but it's helped us so much with sports tourism. And that's my job, is to bring people in to fill up our hotels on the weekend. And you know this well. We have a lot of races in the fall, and
We do.
some of them are really big, and they've been great for us. And just so excited about all this. The men are off running right now. It's just so cool to me.
They are off. The men's 10K underway here at John Hunt Park. Isn't that, Mark? I mean, that sight when they come off the start line and they're all just there in a row. It really is something that people need to come out here and see in person.
Yeah, the wide start is special. I'm told anyway. You talked about runners used to run up in the woods and then come back and you find out who won. So that's really cool that we can start that many shoulder to shoulder and they get a good start.
Yeah, real big credit to Mark and all of the city of Huntsville. You know, they really bought in on the vision, and you know, they brought in, you know, experienced runners, collegiate athletes, coaches, and, you know, really built this course around championship style racing. So as you can see on this great big wide starting line, it's about 750 meters before the runners have their first turn, and it doesn't narrow down any less than 10 meters wide at any point in the course. So really set up for championship racing, large races, large fields, just an excellent course.
If I had a course like this in high school, I think I would have joined the cross country team. But I was down in Alex City, Alabama, and our director, Dustin Welburn, can agree, they did send us to the woods. They sent us up in the woods with a bunch of hills and rocks, and I was like, this is hard.
And I think that is a good point. Huntsville High, when I come out here and watch them practice, it looks like a football team. I think they have 75 boys and 75 girls playing. So there's 150 athletes out here stretching and training, and that's bigger than our football team. You know?
Hey, you know.
Yeah, it's one of the fastest growing sports in high school, I believe. And I think, you know, going back to what Doris mentioned earlier, just the amount of people that are pouring in time and resources into great venues like this, also in track and field, is really starting to see the sport grow from the ground up. And, you know, there's probably a lot of high schoolers out here today watching this meet as well, you know, aspiring to be Division I athletes running at the next level.
It's such a special thing to do, to say you've accomplished that. Alabama just had their state cross country meet, and just top talent going everywhere. Got UAH here in Huntsville getting some of the best runners in Alabama as well on that side of it. So Mark, thank you for joining us. Thank you for fighting for this course, because hey, all of us here and everyone at home is reaping the benefits.
Thank you. It's my pleasure.
Mark Russell, everybody, Huntsville Sports Commission, as the men are off. And Sean, there's something I want to point out that welcoming in our fans here joining for the men's side is they're running a 10K. This is something that you don't do during the regular season. It's championship season. You go up from 8K to 10K, and how difficult does that make it for these runners to just, I know it's just 2K, but it's something that is just an added layer of something to think about here.
No, it definitely is, and especially for the younger runners, the true freshmen, you know, maybe some of the middle distance guys that are having to step up to run cross country or move up in distance. You know, as you mentioned, they run 8 kilometers throughout the season, and then it comes down to championship racing, and they're asked to run 2 kilometers more. So it's going to be very important for the runners to be patient early, know their limitations early, because if they go out at their 8K pace, it may not end well for them. So going to be really important to kind of throttle their, throttle their effort early and make sure that they can finish strong for their team.
Definitely makes it just more tactical. I liked that Sherelle Jackson brought that up with our interview. If you caught that during the break of the races, she's on the NCAA cross country committee, and when you get to these distances, it is tactical, and it's mental. It's how do I want to run this race? What is my strength as an individual runner? Also in cross country, it is team. It is team. It matters how your teammates do. We saw Florida on the women's side kind of pack run, like you mentioned, just to get the job done. So looking at the men's side, Alabama won in 2024. They're the favorites here in 2025. And as these splits start coming in, it'll be fun to see how it all shakes out.
Yeah, and talking about kind of the team battle, obviously we know two automatic qualifiers for this men's race. Alabama's coming off a very strong performance at SECs with a very impressive 25-second spread from first to fifth runner. So they're going to be really tough to beat, but don't count out Georgia to be there in the mix. They had a really strong showing at SECs as well. Coach Adam Trimble there is doing wonderful things at that program, really turning it around over the last couple of years.
It is. So already we're seeing differences from the strategy from the women's side to the men's side. Of course, two separate sports, but when the women's race got underway, we saw one girl, Riley Blade from Florida State, kick it into high gear out front. The pack is still together right now at this point.
Yeah, early on in this men's race, not expecting to see a lot of action. They're going to be coming up on the 2K mark here very soon. We'll be able to get some splits and some team standings there shortly thereafter. But they really want to kind of control the effort here, just kind of get in a good position, depending on their team strategy, be a close-knit group, and then really start to push that pace the second loop here. On this 10K course, they're going to do 2 loops basically. So they're going to want to control the effort early, and then on that second half, if they've got anything left, really push the pace, push the effort, and finish strong.
2 loops, good for spectators to run all around John Hunt Park out here on this course. Let's go over some of the guys to look for individually. You have Kelvin Cheruiyot from Florida. He won SEC, so he's coming in here hot for the Gators. But then, it really is just the Alabama guys just showing out. You have the 2024 champion at regionals, Dismas Lokira, who is back for the Crimson Tide, looking to help his team get out to nationals.
Yeah, and that's going to be a very interesting individual battle. Kelvin there from Florida, he is perhaps the freshman of the year in the nation. He's having a really strong season. He also won the pre-nats that were hosted there at Gans Creek that Sherelle talked about earlier. So he's no stranger to very large meets with lots of competition. So it should be interesting to see how he shakes it up there with Dismas there of Alabama, as the individual title is on the line as well.
In the cross-country world, pre-nats is a race during the regular season at the site of the national championship race. It's always competitive. Best teams in the country get out there, and it just gives you a nice preview in the regular season of what's to come. It's so important, Sean, that my husband, who coaches Vanderbilt, missed my brother's wedding last year for pre-nats.
Yeah, this isn't an SEC broadcast, but it just means more, right? So it for all of these athletes, right, and the coaches and the families involved with it, they are really poured into this sport and dedicated to it. It's not just, their job, it's their life, their families. As we talked with Will and the tradition that he's building there in Florida, from the top, from the AD, seeing a vision for these athletes and these coaches, really an all effort to build a community, build a big family there. It's not just, 5 individual runners running for themselves. And just to talk a little bit about myself, I ran Division II here at University of Alabama in Huntsville that we talked about earlier, but I still keep in contact with my teammates all those years ago because we've just formed such a tight bond over the years that those are lifelong friends that we'll have forever.
The running community is a tight-knit community, and I love that you pointed out just how dedicated these athletes are, the coaches, staffs are to this sport of cross country. It's in the fall, it's during football season. We're here in the South, and football is king, and it's interesting sometimes with these non-revenue sports to the public eye. They don't think it's the time commitment that a football player does. It is. These Olympic sports, these runners that you're watching right here, the distance people, the cross-country runners, they're about to turn around in a matter of weeks and start indoor season. And they're going to go straight into outdoor season that takes you through the end of June. Then you have July that oftentimes involve world championships, training for Olympics, and then cross-country starts in August.
Yeah.
It's an incredible time commitment.
That's exactly right. And you know it because you live it. Your husband's a coach. And, some of these athletes in this men's race are running upwards of 100 miles a week. So just the time commitment from just a standard practice, and that's not even counting the recovery time. They're professional students too, so they're having to go to class. So this is a big workload for these athletes to run 100 miles a week and get their studies in, along with recovery and travel. You know, for some of the teams in this region, it was, you know, a few days off of class as well. So a lot of preparation goes into this. And year-round sport, you can't, if you want to be great at distance running, you can't take off more than a couple weeks a year. You've got to be going constantly year-round.
And that's why you're still running today, because it's a habit you just can't shake.
That's right, that's right. So looking at these team standings early through the 2.5 kilometer mark, we do have Alabama in the lead there unofficially with 42 points through that 2.5K mark. Ole Miss there in second, and Georgia there in third. Right behind them, Tennessee in fourth early in this men's race, about a quarter of the way through.
Looking at the individual side, we mentioned him, Dismas from Alabama, who won last year. He didn't win SECs, but he is in the lead right now here at regionals, trying to go back-to-back with that individual title. But again, we mentioned team, team, team. It is all about the team, and Alabama is proving that right now, as you mentioned, in first place through the 2.5K split.
Yeah, and just looking at the quick individual results, still obviously very early. You know, one of the runners we mentioned earlier, Kelvin Cheruiyot of Florida, he's way back in 23rd, but, you know, if you looked at first to 23rd, you might be worried, but it's only a couple seconds separating first and third there, or 23rd there, excuse me. So not a big separation, really tight group up front early in this men's race.
Yeah, good point, because we saw the 7 seconds of separation early on there in the women's race. But the men's race, again, it is still more compact right now. And 10K, they're only through 4K, so we're going to see it kind of stay together until someone tries to just pull away if they decide to do that.
Yeah, right now, Alabama looking really strong with 3 runners in the top 5. But as we mentioned, very conservative early in this race. You can see by how wide they're running right now that the pace is very relaxed as they're coming up the most significant hill on John Hunt. It is a pretty big climb there. Once they reach this highest point, they're going to have about 1,000 meters of downhill running until they come back through the finish, or excuse me, the starting line area to start that second loop. So right now you can really see some of the runners might be getting a little itchy, wanting to make a little bit of move now. We'll see how that team strategy plays out if anybody's going to make a move early.
And it's just incredible, the split times and the mile pace, and it's, you're talking 4.5 minutes. It's incredible.
Yeah, the level of talent and fitness that these guys have in this race, just like on the girls' side. I mean, we're talking about world-class runners here, and you know, it's just a regional. We're saying, you know, just a regional, but some of these athletes are, you know, Olympians, aspiring Olympians, and this is some of the best talent in the world here in our own backyard here in Huntsville, Alabama this morning.
And it is one of those things where, for some people, it's just a regional. You're conserving yourself from nationals. For other people, seniors on this course right now, this is their final cross-country race as a college athlete. They want a PR. They want to go out and feel like they left it all out on the course. There's so many dynamics in play. It's just the amount of athletes you see on your screen is just kind of a representative of how many dynamics there are in a cross-country race.
Yeah, so many dynamics. You know, there's young runners, there's old runners. Like you mentioned, this is going to be their last race. And one of the, you know, important things is for these athletes in their team huddle before the race and after the race is really kind of just soak in those moments with your teammates and your friends and your family, because you're going to remember these relationships and these moments for a lifetime. It may not seem like it in the moment, but it's going to be something that you carry through your whole life and something that you look back on with very positive feelings.
One of the older guys that's running lights out right now from East Tennessee State, Jason Bowers. After the 6K split, he's in second right there in the yellow jersey that you see right behind Dismissed from Alabama. Just someone, East Tennessee State. He's competing with SEC right now, just leaving it all out there and trying his best.
Yeah, and that's the great thing about this sport is it doesn't necessarily matter where you're from, what school you run at. If you've got, you know, some talent and really strong work ethic, it can take you really far in life. And to your point, you know, Jason Bowers is mixing up there with some of the best in the nation. Hopefully going to look to qualify as an individual if he can keep this, maintain it, stay up front. You know, as we mentioned earlier in the women's race, 4 individual berths are on the line as well in this men's race.
Right now on the individual side, Ryan Ulrey from Georgia, the junior, he was one of the top finishers at SECs coming in to the region, sitting after the 6K mark, around 8th place there on the individual side. So about halfway through this men's 10K.
I do want to highlight one of Alabama natives, Ethan Edgeworth there, that runs for the University of Tennessee, sitting in 9th place. He's a kind of a local legend here in Alabama, very familiar with this course as well. So look to, you know, expect him to know the course well, execute when he feels comfortable executing. He's a sophomore there, transfer from University of Colorado in Boulder.
How important is it to have course familiarity? You know, all the teams come see it the day before, they've run it in the past, but someone like Ethan that could run this course with his eyes closed, how does that help when it comes to the actual race?
Yeah, I really don't think you can downplay the importance of knowing the course at all. You know, it could be something as simple as running the course, walking the course the day before, and knowing where the sharp turns are, or if there's a rutted out spot because there's a little moisture or mud on the course. So knowing the course, being very familiar with it, can play a huge role in your overall success. As we look at this great drone shot now, about 20 athletes there have kind of separated themselves from the rest of the field here as they're starting their second loop of the men's 10K.
One loop to go. It's gonna be good.
Right now in the team standings unofficially through 4 kilometers, we do have Alabama and Georgia kind of be expected there, 1 and 2. Not far behind in third, just 7 points out, is Ole Miss, sitting in third from the SEC. Then back and forth is Tennessee. And let's not count out Middle Tennessee State as well. They've got several excellent front runners there.
Yeah, Middle Tennessee came in to this region ranked 3rd in the region. So doing a great job up there in Murfreesboro. And another mid-major making some waves in the big world of cross country like Lipscomb. Those Tennessee schools, man. Yeah,
there must be something in the water up there in Tennessee, because as you just mentioned, Lipscomb sitting in 6th right now, so they're right there in the mix. And then back in 7th, North Florida, who wasn't long ago back in my college days. What's long ago now doesn't seem like long ago. They were actually Division II schools, so they've bumped up to Division I over the last few years, and now they're starting to mix it up with some of the best in the SEC.
And they host so many meets on the track side for regionals down there in Jacksonville. Just a great campus, a great venue down there. So a lot of these runners know North Florida because they find themselves down there in the Sunshine State every May for the regional down there. Another beautiful, I mean, come on.
We couldn't ask for better.
Yeah, it's been cold. It's been very chilly.
Yes, and this morning, mid-50s right now, beautiful sunshine. There's virtually no wind on the course. So the runners today are just absolutely eating up these conditions. They've been chomping at the bit all season for conditions like today. So they're really expecting to, you know, push that effort in this second loop on this great weather day here at John Hunt Park. As we see, as they've come through the 6K now, it is still Dismas there of Alabama, 17:49 through 6K. But there are about 20 guys there within 3 seconds there in this men's race, as we're just past the halfway point now.
You mentioned SEC champion Kelvin Cheruiyot was in the 23rd spot. Now after the 6K mark, he's up to 10. But again, these guys are within milliseconds running together right now at the halfway point. As we get closer to the end, you'll start seeing these runners make a move to try to get the championship, because I don't care if your team is going to get the at-large bid. You know that you can kind of come into this race, treat it it like a business trip. It just, I mean, it feels good to win. It feels good to have that number one by your time.
Yeah, it definitely does. And even for the, the teams that aren't necessarily vying for that top 1 or 2 spot, this might be the last race of their season. They want to go out on a high note. They want to take this into their down period, preparing for indoor and outdoor track, and they want to finish on a high note because they can carry that momentum into the next season. And the mental aspect of distance running is just as important as the physical aspect. So if you don't believe in yourself and you don't believe in your performances and your coach, then you're going to struggle in this sport. So really going into the postseason or flowing into the indoor season, very important to have finish on a good note there. And I'm expecting now, we're kind of on the lowest point of the course here in this 10K race. They're going to have a little bit of a climb, and then as they get up to a little bit more of the hilly terrain, I'm expecting to see some movement on the men's side. We're going to start to see some separation. You're starting to see that a little bit here with this drone shot, where that group of about 20 runners is now kind of thinning out. You got about 10 kind of leading the way there now as they're making this little climb up John Hunt here.
And that's where the battle is. You had the team favorite coming in, being Alabama, but the individual side, it was up in the air. It was hard to say, put your finger on who was going to come out here and kind of run away with it, pun intended. But this is where it's going to get interesting, and especially with the guys like Bowers from East Tennessee State trying to get that at-large bid. He has to run so fast to make it happen and make sure he's one of the top finishers.
Yeah, he sure does, and he can't leave anything to chance, right? For any of these individual athletes, you don't know what teams might get an at-large, right? So you can't, just assume that, a competitor is going to be on another team that will get an at-large, and then you're going to be moved up that spot. So it's really important in this second half of the race to just stay locked in, stay focused. As you can see, the crowd support is going to get a little bit thicker here. It's a little bit more spectator-friendly portion of the course. So we're coming up on about 1.5 miles to go in this men's 10K.
And we explained it during the women's race, but if you're just joining us for the men's race, Sean, can you just take us through how there is a selection process? So you won't know today the at-large, who's going to be competing next week at Nationals in Columbia, Missouri. There's a process, there's a committee. You may not know until Sunday night.
Correct, yeah, there's a selection committee there's actually going to be a selection show on NCAA tomorrow evening on Sunday evening, and that will determine the at-large berth. So there's going to be several opportunities for men and women both to just perform at a really high level, because at the end of the day, they're going to look at who you raced and how you did well against them. So if you don't perform well today, it could, bump you down a little bit in their, in their rankings, and you may miss out on an opportunity. So really important to have your best day on, what could be your highest stage. So through the 7K split now, Alabama does have 5 runners through. Don't have any unofficial team scores, but they are the first team with 5 runners across the line at 7K. Georgia not far behind them with 5 runners as well now.
Followed by Ole Miss, who doesn't have all 5, but 4 of the 5. And that's where the shakeups can happen, because you're scoring your top 5 runners to get that final score.
So they're coming up on about a little over 1 mile to go now. And this is where we're already starting to see some separation. I expect to see a lot more over the next mile or so, as these runners are really going to start putting in more effort. Not that they're not putting out effort already, but they're going to really start dialing it up a little bit more. And if any of these runners, especially some of the younger athletes we talked about earlier, moving from 8K to 10K, if they didn't quite judge their effort just right, you might start to see them struggle a little bit in the second half. But now looks like we're down to just a group of about 5 or 6 athletes here leading the way as we're approaching about 1 mile to go here very soon.
Yeah, Dismas from Alabama, Toby Gillen from Ole Miss, Nixon Chebby, we haven't mentioned him. He's a sophomore from Auburn, great runner there for the Tigers, followed by Nelson from Alabama there, and then Kelvin Cheruiyot, he is still in the mix, the SEC champion for Florida, up there with that pack, and they're about to turn on the Jets.
Yeah, down to 6 competitors now here. They've got a slight downhill on the course. You can't necessarily tell it by the drone shot here, but this is a nice, steady downhill, great for some downhill strides. They're going to make a right-hand turn, and they're going to hit that significant hill on the course again, like we mentioned earlier. And at the top of that hill, it's about 1,000 to go. So I expect to see some movement either on the hill or after the hill for these 6 athletes here.
That's what makes the sport so beautiful. I love that overhead shot. And then you have to give a shout out to the camera guy on the cart that's turned around backwards, filming the runners. It can't be easy. It cannot be like your still shot. I mean, you are face backwards, and they do such a great job. It's what makes cross-country such a fun sport to watch on TV.
Yeah, and I've done that job before. And,
oh, you have?
And it is not easy, Lyndon. Let me tell you. Connor on the golf course, give him a shout out, and Tyler giving those excellent drone shots right now from up above. So yeah, those guys, hats off to them. They're getting some great shots for us. As these guys are climbing the hill here, you can really kind of get some perspective with the 2 shots side by side here as they're reaching about 1,000 to go in this men's 10K.
This Down in Front Productions, we are all part of their team. We're putting on both these broadcasts today. I saw Connor and Tyler warming up, especially Connor. He was doing some, like agility drills to get ready to keep his head on the swivel on the back of that cart.
Yeah, you got to be locked in. It might sound simple. You just point the camera and hold the runners in frame, but they're they don't necessarily know where the cart's turning or anything like that. But we're starting to see here on this section of the course. It's a really wide section, and if you're not careful, you can miscalculate these tangents. So a few feet can be gained if you run these tangents properly. So you see some athletes kind of varying on which line they want to take here, as they're going to make a left-hand turn. We're going to get some more splits here, but all 6 of the runners are still in the mix here. This is a pretty spectacular effort by all 6 of these guys right now.
That's a great point, because oftentimes, even at national championships, depending on the course, you can hug the line. But you saw that strategy there and see them drifting, and they're just trying to figure out where their best position is to make a move.
Yeah, and so we're going to make this big right-hand sweeping turn. We're coming up on about 600 to go here on this men's race. And as they make this final big right-hand turn, it's going to be downhill or flat to the finish. And I'm really surprised that we still have 6 guys in the mix here this late in the race.
Brings in to question, and we heard coaches talk about it pre-race. How much effort do you give in regionals? Because it is a fine line, and if you're new to the sport, if you're watching, you may be asking yourself, how can you run a race and not go full out, not give it your all? It's because you have a championship. This is the qualifying race. Qualifying rounds in tracks, Olympic trials, they're so nerve-wracking because it matters how you do, but there is a fine line. You still want to give your 100% and go all out in the championship race.
No, that's exactly right. And so for some of these athletes, they might be making a calculation. So it's like, okay, I can go 95, 98% in this race, still perform where I need to for my team, but leave something kind of in the bank for that national championship just less than 2 weeks away. So for some of these athletes, they're playing a very calculated decision. But for some of these individuals, we talked about Nelson there from Auburn. He's looking for an individual qualifier. He can't leave anything to chance. So it's going to be interesting to see, as we're just about 250 meters away here from the finish now, and you've got 4 guys in the mix, a little bit of fading back from the 5 and 6 runner here.
The crowd start to pick up. That lets you know they're coming. They're all coming down to the finish line to watch this exciting finish as we're starting to see the separation happen. As guys, you see the finish line there, and they're going to make sure it's a strong finish as we start getting these results in individually first, and then we'll be able to tell how the teams are doing.
And that does look like Kelvin Cheruiyot of Florida. He was very patient early on, as far back as 23rd, but he looks like he is going to be our NCAA South Region champion there, just over 29 minutes on the clock there for Kelvin. Great performance, great patience throughout the race.
Just incredible stamina by Cheruiyot. didn't even look like it hurt him that badly. He didn't collapse to the ground after the finish line. The SEC champion stood strong in that finish, getting across the line first, as you mentioned, just over 29 minutes. It felt like that race lasted 10 minutes. It just goes by so fast.
It does go by so fast, and while you're in the moment for these runners too, especially early on, it might seem like it's taking a long time, but then as they get to that halfway point, it really speeds up in your mind, and before you know it, you're at the finish line battling for every single position here. So it looks like we've got several runners in here. Kelvin Cheruiyot of Florida, as we mentioned earlier, is your winner, 29:09 unofficially.
Followed by Alabama's Dismas Lokaira there, who won last year, coming in second among a pack of Alabama. And there's the Auburn guy. There's Chevy right there in third, so a good effort from him.
Yeah, then you got Nelson Perrican there of Alabama, the freshman, I believe. No, excuse me, he's fallen back to 9th there.
Full disclosure, these times are unofficial and they're changing as they're getting scored, especially on the team side, so that's where this gets tricky. It's kind of, when you hear us say something, just know that it may change 2 minutes from now as more people come in, cross the line, and times get officialized. That's a word, don't read it out.
All right, and Ole Miss running really well. They've got their first 2 runners in the top 6 as well, so really setting the stage there for a good performance by Ole Miss. Georgia's got 2 runners in the top 10 as well, so they're hoping to continue on their great run from SECs, as they were kind of seeded or favored to be the 2nd best men's team this morning.
Now Ole Miss has 3 runners across the finish line. Georgia, who was one of the top teams coming into this, 2 runners across out of 5. Florida, Lipscomb, Auburn, Florida State, Tennessee all have 1 runner in the scorebook for them.
In Alabama, let's talk about them for a second. Looks like they've got all 5 runners in the top 11 today. So, 4 runners in the top 11, and their 5th runner is 15th there, the senior Carson Burian, rounding out their scoring top 5. So excellent run by Alabama. I think it's probably safe to say that they are going to be your men's team champion this morning. Just a spectacular performance by the Crimson Tide.
And that is what you want. You want in cross country to have that dominant performance. All runners obviously to run as fast, but when you have that type of finish, that just shows the strength of your team. Incredible, and you know it feels good for them too, to know that the best of the best of the entire race all in.
Yeah, and we talked a little bit earlier about, I mentioned their really close spread at SECs, less than a 50-second spread over a 10-kilometer course today. So just an outstanding performance for Alabama this morning.
More individual results coming in. We mentioned Toby from Ole Miss. He finished 6th. Kitus Miss Gina from Ole Miss, the junior there, with the 5th place finish. There's some Ole Miss guys finishing right on top of each other.
As these team standings continue to roll in, unofficially, Georgia still only has 4 athletes in. Ole Miss only has 4 as well. They're kind of rounding out your top 2 and 3 right now. Tennessee with 3 athletes in. So we're going to wait to see how these team scores play out as more individuals come in to complete those team scores.
And still a lot of people, as you mentioned, from those teams to cross the finish lines. The crowd still very much in this race, cheering on their school all the way to the end.
So Georgia does have all 5 runners in now, so now we'll start to see how much these team scores shift around a little bit. As you saw on the women's side, we gave you some unofficial results. Those kept jostling around a little bit. We're going to continue to watch how that plays out on the men's race as well. Ole Miss now in with 5 runners as well. And we talked a little bit about Lipscomb earlier. You know, those Tennessee teams are running well. Their top individual runner ran 29:53, finishing 14th overall. The senior there, Chase Atkins, excellent run by him.
It's always nice to see the Lipscomb team running around Nashville and cheering them on. Again, they do such a good job pouring in to the cross-country program and distance running at Lipscomb University. Alabama native Ethan Edgeworth running for Tennessee, the sophomore. His unofficial time, 30 minutes, 25 seconds. We'll give him that shout out since you mentioned him earlier, someone that's very familiar with the course.
Yeah, great kid, great family. I've had the opportunity to talk to him multiple times as well, so really good to see him performing well here, kind of in his backyard, just down near the Coleman area is where he grew up.
An unofficial team score for Alabama right now, 28.
28 points. I mean, that right there is a very dominating performance in this region. As these team scores keep coming in unofficially right now, Ole Miss is sitting in second, not far behind, just 7 points right now is Georgia. So the Bulldogs there might be a little bit of an upset in the making there for that auto qualifier, but we'll have to kind of stay tuned and see how these scores fulfill the rest of the day, because it's going to come down to the displacers from other teams and how that all factors in as these team scores get compiled.
Yeah, and there's the protest window, so it takes a minute to get the official. Again, when we were live on air with the women's earlier, we were dealing with unofficial, and it looked like that Alabama was in second, but then when it was all said and done, we now have the official team scores. In Florida, they ran away with it, 52 points on the women's side. First place, it was Tennessee that took second place with 101 points. Alabama, sure to get the at-large bid, third place there with 125 points. So just goes to show you, when we're telling you these men's scores, we're telling you in real time as they cross the finish line, but it just depends on how everything gets recorded and gets shuffled out.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing how far the sport's come in just the last few years. It wasn't, that long ago that you're waiting 30 to 45 minutes after the race to get team scores, and now, we can get a really good picture of what teams are doing and how well they're doing instantaneously, but just knowing that those scores are going to shift a little bit as these results continue to pile in here.
Starting to warm up now out here at John Hunt Park, as you're getting a look at what we've been bragging about, talking about, just the open course. Fans love it, runners love it. I get excited every year when they host the regionals to come, and I wish they could host it for the rest of time. It's just such a great environment, and they do such a good job from the production, from blasting the music, just making the runners feel at home and loose and have fun. Like you just want to create the fun environment. It feels like a party out here.
Yeah, and talking a little bit about how fun this can be, these athletes, they're some of the best in the world, as we talked about, but even the ones that aren't, at the front of the pack, they're pouring in hours and hours every single week. So, for an event like this, a venue like this, for them to pour back into the athletes and create that fun atmosphere, this sport can be a lot of fun. Yes, it's hard work, but we can play music as well and have a good time just like any other sporting event can.
We're going to take a break. I'm going to give you the unofficial standings right now on the men's side. Right now, unofficially, Bama in first, Ole Miss second. We will see how it shakes out